You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
We just came off yesterday recording our first show of the Cabral HouseCall. This is our weekend shows where we answer our community's questions every single week, 52 weeks a year, answering hundreds, if not thousands of your questions. Really appreciate them coming in. Actually, we are quickly approaching our 1,000th question on the Cabral HouseCall. Really looking forward to that milestone. I love all these little milestones that come along with podcasting. Since it is still fairly recent for me, it hasn't even been quite, I think it's been about 18 months. Really enjoy the process, really enjoy being able to reach more and more people every single month. So, and that really goes out to you because I'm recording these shows. I'm trying to bring them out to people, share my message with people of really healing hope. And that's this, is that whatever you suffer from, mental, physical, spiritual, whatever it might be, that those things can heal. And the reason we know they can heal is because there's been at least one other person in your same exact position that has overcome exactly what you're going through right now. That always brought me hope, many, many years ago, and I hope it brings you hope as well. And what I try to do is just share with you real world examples from someone that practices every single day of the week, at least Monday through Friday. So we're going to get right into today's show. I do hope you tuned into yesterday's show. And getting back to what I was just saying, the reason the podcast is growing, the reason that we're kind of moving up is that you're sharing it with other people, that you're trying to get other people on board, whether it's friends, family, coworkers, anyone, spouses, partners. Sometimes we know how hard that is, but we're trying to get them to invest in themselves. That's really what we want to do. We want them to better themselves for themselves so that they get to enjoy more happiness, more health in life, but then also it's how it affects everyone around us, how it affects our community. We've had groups of 6 to 8 people write in all the time. Like they've created this own little health group. It's amazing. All they do is listen to the podcast, not just this one, but others as well. They read books. They try and experiment with new things. I love that because it doesn't have to just be what I'm preaching. The message is about healing hope, and that's really what it's all about. So yesterday's show was a long one, but it was worth it. I believe it was worth it, at least. We answered a lot of great questions. We talked about body types. We talked about all sorts of different things that can go wrong with the body and how to heal. Today, though, I'm always going to make sure that I keep it at 25 minutes for these house calls or under 20 to 25 minutes. And that's because I want to respect your time as well. And truly, if possible, I would love you to listen to every day's show. Weekday shows are about 15 minutes, okay? And the house calls, I do about 25 minutes. And the reason I do that is just because I want to get more of your questions answered. We're always a couple weeks behind in answering people's questions as they come in. And it's just because we can't keep up. There are so many questions that come in. But we want to be able to provide these services, but just with the understanding is that I respect your time and I don't want to give too much for you to keep up with. So once again, thank you for tuning in, and let's get right into today's first question. It's going to be a little bit of a rant. Okay, so the first question is coming in from Susie. She is writing in, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. I am pregnant and I'm planning on breastfeeding my baby. A friend of mine, however, started breastfeed but had to stop after her baby developed an allergy to her milk. I read the ingredients list for the crazy expensive can of formula she is now using and saw some ingredients that I didn't really like, such as palm kernel oil, etc. It was a major brand that everyone would know, but it was far more expensive than the regular formula because apparently it is their allergy or medical formula. What would you suggest for a brand of formula if a mother has to use it or chooses to use it over breast milk? I cannot thank you enough for all you do, Susie." Okay, so Susie, here's where the rant starts. I believe that it's irresponsible that we're telling women that their own baby is allergic to their milk, okay? This is almost impossible. It's almost impossible. Now, the reason I say this is I get women with this question all the time in my practice, friends, family, outside of my practice as well. Here's the thing. Almost always, it's not the mother's milk. It's what the mother is eating for foods that is then being transferred in her milk to the child. So it's irresponsible for our medical community to not share this with mom, saying, hey, you may not be able to have cow's milk dairy because your child is sensitive to those specific immunoglobulins. Or you might not be able to eat all of those salads and kale because that affects your child. Again, this is an irresponsible nature on looking at a simplistic point of view, like, oh, well, your baby's having a reaction to your milk. Well, that means she's allergic to it. That may or may not be true. It is possible. It's rare, but it's possible. So I always keep my mind open to that. However, when most women cut out the eggs, the dairy, the corn, the soy, the cow's milk, the gluten, the, other things like that, and it's not that bad. It's not as bad as it sounds. You're just cutting out, for the most part, like gluten and dairy. And the reason why I say eggs too, because people don't understand, unless you do a food sensitivity test and you test this, a lot of people are allergic to egg whites. And I know this sounds so strange, but it's that white of the egg that has twice as many antigens or allergens or proteins, not the amount of grams, just the actual types of proteins, as the yolk. And if you look at it, well, what's that yolk do? The yolk is nutrition that feeds that white of the egg that will then grow into a chick. And the mom or average person could be sensitive to the white. Not everyone, but a lot of people. So anyway, irresponsible on, I believe, all of our parts as a medical community. It's not all the doctor's fault. I'm not saying that. I never blame doctors, but they're not taught this. And if you're not taught this, how could you teach a patient? Okay, but let's just say a mom chooses not to breastfeed, which is her choice, or she does have some type of allergy to her breast milk, although rare. What would you do? Well, what I'd have to look at is how can we get it the most natural? I'm not going to give you a brand. Here's why. If someone's listening to this show a year from now, that brand could have changed their formula. It happens all the time. I have to be very careful. But what I'm going to tell you is exactly what to look for. Make sure that formula does not have cow's milk. Human babies, cannot digest cow's milk. A cow's born at about 112 to 120 pounds. A baby's born at about 8 pounds. You could see how there might be a discrepancy in the size of the protein molecule and the level of IGF-1 and other nutrients inside of cow's milk. What animal would be closer to a human? A sheep or a goat? That's correct. So if we look at sheep's milk or goat's milk, we're doing much better. They make goat's milk formula. Now, we need to make sure that there's no soy, which they use soybean oil all the time in these formulas. That would be bad. We don't want a polyunsaturated fat like canola oil or soybean oil in our baby's formula. That doesn't make any sense either. Not good for hormones for that young baby, and certainly not good for the inflammation in general. So, what would I look for? Well, if you're going to use a protein of that nature, I would certainly look for more of a goat's milk or a sheep's-based milk. Now, one thing you can look for in general is go to the Weston Price Foundation. The Weston Price Foundation, although I can't agree with everything, I do not agree with everything that they write. That's for sure. But they give you a nice little homemade formula you can make on your own that contains omega-3s, that it contains the goat's-based milk. Now, if you can't get raw goat's milk or prefer not to do raw goat's milk, totally understand. But you could get a pastured goat's milk that's organic. Now, again, organic gets into different types of play, but you can do that. And so that's a better alternative. Okay. So hopefully that helps. Weston Price Foundation. Make sure there's no soy, no cow's milk, no canola oil. There you go. All right. Lubos is up next. Dr. Cabral, not sure if this is even a good question, but let me try. By the way, thank you for answering my question about 23andMe. I have heard you say several times, let's stop guessing and start testing, referring to diagnosing symptoms or disease. The approach really resonates. However, most of us, including myself, already have a bunch of blood tests, sleep lab results, urine tests, etc. Most of us also tried supplements, not necessarily yours, medications, diets, etc. Yet, most of us are still sick, fat, hypertensive, and quite frankly, miserable. I'm projecting here. Then, a person like yourself comes along, someone with a proven track record in self-administered results. That's powerful. To my question now, where should one start? Let's say I'd like you to help me get into great health. Yet, I, like most of us, have a limited budget. I'd honestly love to do all the tests that you provide, but simply cannot afford them all. Is there a cheat sheet, something that I could follow to gain confidence that I'm getting the biggest bang for my buck? Should I do the genetic test first, or should I try the 21-day detox and see if that fixes things? Even though it goes against let's stop guessing and start testing. Could you please bring clarity to those of us, or perhaps only me, who don't see the forest for the trees and don't really know which path to follow? As always, you and your work are impressive. Thank you for all you do, Lubo. So I totally understand where you're coming from. And, quite frankly, I completely agree. And that's why we essentially have 3 levels. I was just like where you are. Keep in mind, I'm a 17-year-old kid. I'm not coming from a wealthy family, right? There isn't this ability to order all of these lab tests. It was always a struggle for my mom, who took me to all these appointments, and my dad, who worked and had to pay for all these things as well. And supplements, that was a financial investment on their point. There's no doubt about that. And I will forever be grateful to my parents for at least exploring these opportunities, because a lot of kids would never have gotten that opportunity. So even though there might not have been a ton of money to do all of these things, I understood. And I made a lot of sacrifices myself when I was in college, of having to work and do things like that to continue to buy supplements. And I'm not saying that is everyone's path. I'm not saying that at all. And I didn't do anything special. So I'm not saying that I'm special in any way. I totally agree with that. I do want to just relate and say that functional medicine is expensive. And it's unfortunate, but health insurance will not cover a lot of these lab tests. That's just the way it is. And that's because we're not diagnosing disease. We're actually looking at root cause underlying imbalances. And it's too bad, because health insurance only wants to work with an ICD-4 or 9 code and make sure that we diagnose some type of disease, but that's not how it works. And you're also paying for the practitioner's time. And a practitioner only has so many hours in the day, and they have to charge essentially a rate of what they feel is their time. Now, keep in mind, there are functional medicine doctors out there right now charging $1,500 to $2,000 per hour. And I respect those people. I understand that they only want to do a couple hours a week. I could never see myself ever charging that, although, if I feel like my services would be on par. It would be the same value. If not, I'd like to say that I can help people as well as anyone, but I wouldn't do that. And because I feel like that really won't allow me to work with everyone. And I want to be able to work with everyone. I know that's not easy for everyone. So what I'm trying to say is I understand where you're coming from, but that's why we developed 3 levels. So the first level is completed the 21-day detox. For the price that it is, it doesn't cost any more than food for those 3 weeks. It honestly doesn't. You will most likely save money, which is what most people say. They honestly write back saying it was simple to do. Once I got past those first 48 hours, it cost less money, which is why I plan on doing it quarterly, which is exactly what I do. Okay? So that's the thing. Most people will get about 80% of the results by doing the 21-day detox. 80% of the results by going to see a functional medicine practitioner, whatever it might be. And that's because they learn a system. It's a system that I created that helps to cleanse your body at a blood level and then a cellular level. And it ramps up your liver detoxification. Your liver is the most important organ in your body. No one else will really tell you that. They'll say, oh, well, the heart is. So yeah, well, of course the heart's important. But the heart is going to continue to beat. It's just, that's the way it is. It will continue to beat as long as it has the right electrical impulse from electrolytes and a few other nutrients as well. Your liver, though, is what manufactures hormones. It helps with glucose. It helps keep homeostasis. It's when your blood is toxic, it's what cleans it every 6 minutes of the day, literally. It's the most important thing. So anyway, the 21-day detox is where people should start. There's honestly no cost to it. Of course, you have to buy it, but it saves you money in food. So that's number 1. Everyone can do that. Everyone can do that because they're going to be buying food no matter what. Number 2 is run a lab on our website. The reason we put these labs up here is simple. We are offering all the labs that we do in our practice. When you run those labs, you don't have to meet with me. There's the savings right there. But I review every single lab that is ordered through our website, and I get on the phone twice a week with my health coaches. We go through your lab. Then I tell them what your plan is going to be. And keep in mind, these are highly skilled health practitioners, registered dietitians, holistic certified health coaches. They already know their stuff. I'm just making sure you're getting the best plan for you. They know what they're doing, no doubt about it. They are highly skilled. They don't even need me to be able to say a lot of these things. I just want to make sure it's being double checked. That's it. I would have my own family members, and I do go to my holistic health coaches. Honestly, I send them to them because sometimes it's better not working with your own family members, right? So we also cap those labs. People don't know this. We don't allow more than 100 labs to leave our office a month. That's it. That's the maximum. So you'll see a lot of times us put a cap on our labs, like no longer available. And the reason is it's a lot of work still on our part. I'm reviewing all your labs. I'm speaking with the health coaches. The health coaches are also, when you buy a lab, they're giving you a 30-minute consultation as part of that lab. So you get so much more than just running that lab. Now, the third tier is what I just spoke about, is you and I personally working together. That's you and I getting on the phone or over Skype, okay? So half of my consultations are over Skype all over the world. Literally name a country and most likely, or at least continent, and I've spoken with someone on that continent. Not Antarctica, but maybe one day. So that's how you can get that level of service. And that obviously, as you go up the tiers, what are you doing? You're getting a little bit more hand-holding, right? So whenever you have more hand-holding, more step-by-step, it's going to cost a little bit more. But keep in mind, tier 3, which is us working one-on-one, you'll hear me say this, and it's funny because, a lot of people think I'm joking around when they work with me one-on-one. I tell them, you are not allowed not to get well. You literally are not allowed not to recover. You have to recover. And the reason is we are both investing a lot of time. A lot of our time and a lot of energy. I'm not doing that. We have an application process. You don't get to just work with myself. And I'm not saying that from like a high level soapbox standpoint. It's not. I'm working with people who are ready to get better. If I read a person's application, I'm like, no, they really didn't put any effort into it. This person is not really ready to get better. And I understand that because you know what? We're not always all there yet. I've been there myself. There were certain points in my life where I'm like, I'm just not willing to do the work. And I know that. I can see that now because I've worked with so many people. So I have to move on to the next question, but hopefully that helps. 3 levels, Dr. Ball Detox, or using something like the Candida and Bacterial Overgrowth Protocol or any of our protocols. And then moving on to the lab order from our website where I review, and then one-on-one with my health coach, meaning working with a health coach on my team who are phenomenal, like better than most of the doctors. And again, I mean no disrespect, but the best of the best. They're fantastic. You can work with them for also a fraction of the price of working with me, and that might be more economical as well. Okay, so moving on with Jen now. Hi, Dr. Brawl. I would like to know the proper protocol for my situation. I'm 56 and I've had Crohn's for 20 years. I had about 3 years, had a large portion of my intestine removed, and started a maintenance dose of Remicade every 3 months. I have also gained 15 pounds and would like to shed that as well. I'm feeling good, exercise daily, but would like to get off the Remicade and heal my body properly. I take Metamucil to add fiber twice a day, VSL probiotic, D3, and a multi. I ordered 3-week detox and would like to proceed with my proper testing and supplements. How would you recommend I begin my journey to better health? Thank you for your wonderful podcast, Jen. Okay, so this is actually really, I'm not going to say easy, nothing's easy, right? But this is actually very straightforward. So I've helped many people in your same situation. Can't recommend enough. There's one most important test for you to run. That would be the organic acids test. If you could run a second, it would be the hair tissue mineral analysis. And if you could run a third, it would be the food sensitivity test. In that order, in my opinion, the first one's going to look at what's going on with that gut, what's going on with it, and it's also going to look at your B vitamins, liver detox, protein digestion, fatty acids, super important. Next is going to look at, do you have any heavy metals, any heavy metal toxicity, mercury, arsenic, lead, aluminum. And it's also going to look at your mineral levels and stress levels. Now, the food sensitivity test is a nice add-on if possible, but not more important than those first 2. Then I would do your 21-day Dr. Ball detox while waiting for your test results to come in. Remember, once you order those labs, you're going to get me to review them. I'm going to pass that information on to my health coach who will have developed a plan for you. Again, they as well have done hundreds, if not 1,000 consultations. They've worked with me now for years. They know what I'm going to say before I'm even going to say it. They're fantastic. Can't recommend enough working with them, even if you're not working with me. Can't recommend that enough. So that's exactly what I would do. Do the 21-day detox about a week after you send in your lab tests, and then that will give you that 3.5 weeks for the lab results to come in. You'll be speaking with one of our health coaches just about 4 weeks after you mail in that lab. Remember, once you mail in a lab, just email scheduling at Cabral Wellness Institute, support@stephencabral.com. Email us at, and we're going to set you up with that consultation. All right. Next up is Jody. She writes in, "Hi, Dr. Brawl. My friend's baby has a pretty bad diaper rash. Are there natural creams or powders that can clear it up?" Okay, Jody, this is a great question. I have a pretty easy and straightforward answer for you. My first daughter used to get diaper rashes. Unfortunately, it can be caused by improper gut bacteria. It can be caused by yeast infection. Hers was yeast-based. She just used to get yeast infections, and we just made sure that we were able to clear that up. Totally healthy child, but just, she was colicky. She had digestive issues when she was just born. That's why, again, I've been through this with her, and I'm happy to share those. For the outward-based treatment, you can do this. You can simply use coconut oil, which is one thing that we used. But also, when it was a really bad flare-up and everything was just really sensitive, a non-GMO cornstarch. I know it's going to sound strange, but a non-GMO cornstarch cleared it right up. In its worst case, where there's chafing and it's raw and the coconut oil is just not doing what you want it to do, you can also use a non-nanoparticle zinc oxide cream. This is not something you would want to use in the long term. I'm not saying that, but for a child that can't sleep and it is screaming through the night, if you're a parent, you know what that's like. Nobody's happy, right? Because nobody's sleeping. You can use a non-nanoparticle zinc oxide cream, pretty much like you would use for suntan lotion, a natural suntan lotion. That will help as well. So coconut oil will help clear up yeast. And my other recommendation, like I said, for the zinc oxide as needed, will help as well. And the only other thing I would look at and just would like to mention too is using some baby probiotics. So we used the L-Reuteri for my daughter when she was colicky, and it helped within 3 days. Pretty amazing. I've talked about that before. Just type in colic on stephencabral.com/podcast, and you will see that podcast as well for those recommendations. Okay, our last question of the day is from Macy. Macy writes in, "Hello, thank you so much for a helpful and informative podcast. I have a question I'm hoping you can answer. What would be a protocol for a child who has petite mal seizures? Would a child with this condition benefit from a gut-based diet like GAPS or extra supplements? Can food sensitivities play a role? Your thoughts, advice, recommendations would be much appreciated. Thank you again for your time and help." So, hands down, without a doubt, we absolutely should look at nervous system and gut-based. Again, for my recommendation would be the organic acids test and the hair tissue mineral analysis. Food sensitivity is a nice add-on if you can afford that. Most important would be the organic acids test. Second most important would be the hair tissue mineral analysis. I would want to see if this child actually has elevated levels of mercury, right? That's an important one. Or even elevated levels of copper. That's important. Okay, so that's the hair tissue mineral analysis. And a child can do that. Anyone can do that. Now, the organic acids test, if your child has leaky gut, if intestinal permeability, and is spilling out proteins, that's going to increase immune response. That's going to increase inflammation, which may cause an increase in seizures. So I would absolutely look at that neurologically, and I would look at it food-wise, gut-based as well. And sometimes there's a lot of benefit from natural anti-inflammatories in the beginning, no doubt about that. So fruits and vegetables, all those good things, of course, but also looking at a good, healthy probiotic for a child. Well, put it this way, if you run the organic acids test and they have yeast and bacterial overgrowth, we have a children's candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol as well. So you could certainly do that. Now, let's say you didn't want to do any of this, you just want to do food-based, you could certainly do the GAPS protocol. Absolutely. Just be careful of some of the histamines, because histamines can be an aggravant as well. That means if you go very, very careful on the fermented veggies in the beginning, go very, very careful, if you do any of the raw milks or raw yogurts as well. But yes, so we absolutely do need to heal the gut. We need to just make sure that the nervous system and the mineral levels are in check as well. All right, that is all we can fit in for today's show. I know I went long on a few of them, but again, there's never a game plan. I go in, I try to answer the questions to the best of my ability and just make sure that I give everyone the time that they need and deserve. Take care. I hope you've had a great weekend, and I can't wait to speak with you tomorrow on what I have lined up as a very special Motivation and Mindset Monday. Take care. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.